Hi everybody, this is Samantha with Crafty Chicks Corner, and I wanted to share with you a card that I made at my Christmas Stamp-A-Stack in October. It's using the Cup of Christmas Cheer dies, the Snowfall Accent puff paint, the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas 6x6 pattern paper pack, Very Vanilla, and cherry cobbler, as well as pretty what is that, pretty peacock for the card, which is the colors that coordinate right with the paper pack there. And so we're going to be I did some of the die cutting for you because the intense part of this project is a little more complicated. It's not only the die cutting, but it is the Snowfall accent paints, and I wanted to make sure the video didn't go too long. So I went ahead and pre-cut everything, and we're going to assemble it. So this was a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that I cut at 5.5, scoring at 4 1/4. And we're going to be using this as a vertical card. This card, this sheet of Very Vanilla is just for the inside of the card. So it's cut at 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And you can add your sentiment in there or a note. This card's actually going to a friend that I'm going to write a really long note. Probably need more than this, so I'm not going to be adding a sentiment. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my snail adhesive and adhere this on the inside. Now, if you're stamping, always stamp first before you adhere because paper has two sides. So if you mess up, just flip it. There we go. Now this piece of Very Vanilla here is 1 3/4 by 5.5, and it's gonna go right about there. But when I'm doing layering of designer series paper with cardstock, I always like to glue first and then adhere. That way, if this part's messed up, it's not the whole card base that's messed up. Okay, so just adding some snail adhesive. Yes, isn't even this cute? Some of the ladies at my Stamp-A-Stack actually use this side of the designer series paper with the rest of the card because it fits the theme well as well. See, having a day. Okay, we're going to map this first. So the designer series paper is a sheet of 6 by 6. So what I did was I actually started creating this card by measuring that piece first because I wanted to get four cards out of one sheet to get the most bang for my buck. So it is cut at 5.5 because that's the length of the card. So you do, lose a 1/2 inch, but then the rest of it is cut at 1.5. So 1.5 plus 1.5 plus 1.5 plus 1.5 equals your 6 inches. So you don't have any waste the other way. Sometimes I work backwards. Instead of just creating something I love, I try to use my products to make as many projects as possible, especially when I'm planning a class, because I like to keep my classes very affordable. And if I am not being efficient with my supplies, then it won't be as affordable, or I will lose money by doing this. So this is a cherry cobbler. I just used a scrap piece of cherry cobbler that was at least 2.5 by 3 inches to die cut this and this. And I used a very vanilla piece that was at least 3.25 by 3.25. And then the candy cane is 1.5 by 3. So you can do them all at once, really, and just do a 5 inches by 3.25 and get both out of the same piece of Airy Vanilla. And then for your pretty peacock, you want to cut it at 2.5 by 2.5. Now, if you want the written instructions in PDF format of these projects, or of any of my projects that you see on video, you can find them at craftychickscorner.com. You can go to the gallery page and just click on the project that you want the instructions for, and it'll take you straight to that blog post. And there's always a link to a PDF printout. So now to glue this is a little harder. When I used to have fine detail things like this, I would always use the adhesive sheets that Stampin' Up had. But they no longer work with Sizzix, so currently we don't have any of those. So I got out my fine tip glue pen, but I'm only doing, I just want to make sure you get it. I'm only doing the outside and a couple of the lines. And honestly, I haven't found, I used to always use, when I was crafting, the Quickie glue pens. I'm sure you've seen them on the market. And this is even finer. So as you saw, I went up 2 different of the thicker lines of the cup frame. And then the rest of it, I just did that side here. And that should be fine. And I'm going to actually grab my craft tweezers here to place this. And now if you do get some glue on the outside, it does dry clear. But I always like to take a tissue or a paper towel or something and try to get as much off of it. And I'm looking around and I am currently out of both. So I'm just going to use my finger here and get as much of that off. And you want to set that to the side to let it dry. And we're going to do the same thing here for our candy cane. Like I said, this project is a little more complicated than most of my projects. You know that I love super simple, quick to assemble, but beautiful looking cards. It's just sort of my trademark of crafting. And but with this card, as soon as I saw that Snowfall Accent puff paint, this cup of cheer set was my absolute favorite. I'm a huge coffeeaholic. And so I wanted to make this puff paint whipped cream because I like a good hot latte with caramel or caramel brulee. I'm a huge Starbucks caramel brulee fan. And I always splurge and get the whipped cream if I'm going to splurge and get the coffee anyway. And you can just line that up like that. I'll set that aside to dry. But the great thing about the fine tip glue is it actually comes with a needle built in the cap, so you never have to deal with clogging. So you just slide that right back in to close it. We're going to be using, I have the Stampin' Up embossing gun. So we're going to be using that today to make our puff paint into whipped cream. So let me see here. We're going to use some dimensionals. I don't know about you guys, but so the dimensionals come in sheets like this with the honeycomb type of cut, which I love and I use them all the time. But this is dimensionals too. So what I do instead of pitching that is I cut it as I need it for projects. So then I have a long surface like this. I have a long piece. When I do cut this, I don't use my ribbon cutting scissors. I use my old Stampin' Up rubber cutting scissors that we would use to assemble our stamp sets. So I just go like that and snip it off. And then I pretty much, make my buck stretch just a little further, which I love to do with my crafting supplies. The dimensionals are very affordable. You get like 300 of them or something crazy like that for like $4. It's insane. So we are going to adhere our candy cane behind our cup. Now, if you want it candy cane top, you can go like that and just snip off a little bit. Or I actually prefer it to look like a stick. So I'm going to do mine like this. I have a little scrap piece of paper hanging off there. And I'm going to adhere my candy cane like this. So you want it to be directly on the cup because we're going to pop the cup. So just add, you can do it with snail. Doesn't need to be, you're not trying to get the detail of the little lines. And yeah, I want mine to just stick up just a little further. There we go. All right, and we're going to put this to the side there. There we go. Oh no. Wonder if I can pop it back off. I just wanted it a little lower to fit more room for the whipped cream. Hopefully I didn't push hard enough and I can just pop it off. Woohoo! So you want it to line up with just a small border from your stitching so that you have room for your whipped cream here. Now this is the fun part. I do like to use my tweezers just to hold the paper so that my hand's not where the gun is. And we're actually going to layer the puff paint. If you're sensitive to noise, once I turn on the embossing gun, it probably will be loud because of my microphone. Sorry about that. Now you don't want to pick that up because it'll drain. You just want to hold. And I start on the lowest setting because I don't want it to move around too much. And let's go up. Starting to puff. Okay, now we're going to go back and add another layer. And I do it this way so that I have more control. This is my first time embossing on camera, so I hope it doesn't turn out terrible. There it goes. So now we have some billowing whipped cream there for our hot cocoa. A little peppermint stick in it. I might just add a little more right here so that it's more even. And you can see the hotter the embossing gun gets, the quicker your puff paint starts puffing. So once it's already in use, it's pretty quick to puff, which is great. There we go. And we're going to add dimensionals again to our little circle. I got something from my tweezers on my, this will just be a display card. I must have had some gunk on my tweezers. So again, I'm going to use the scrap part around my dimensionals that most people probably throw away. But I like to bang for my buck, right? Maybe add a little more across this bottom here so that it doesn't collapse. And then just one up here at the top. Because you want to make sure it's popping off the card. Now this card, because of all the dimensionals, probably is a deliver in person or pay extra postage type of card. When you're doing handmade cards and you're making something as cute as this, sometimes it just has to have extra postage or extra or be hand delivered. And that's fine with me. I make special cards for special people. This one I don't mind paying the extra postage on, but if you're sending 50 of them, maybe this isn't the Christmas card that you'd like to send. So I hope you guys enjoyed this project. Have a great day.